Peace, family. It's your brother Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. We are here tonight once again with the official Gaza report. Sadly, the most important report I can give you is that the war is still going on. Israel's war on Gaza has reached day 211. And as always, we're going to give you the latest updates. We're going to give you the information that mainstream media does not provide. We're going to give you all the perspectives that corporate outlets are reluctant, if not outright refusing to give. Of course, as always, we're going to start with the numbers, and the numbers are not good. Every day that we've given the war on Gaza update, we have had an increase in Palestinian deaths. There's not been one day where the numbers have stayed stagnant. And as of now, as of this very moment, 34,654 Palestinians have been killed. 34,654 Palestinians have been killed, along with 77,908 who have been wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. And of course, the death toll in Israel from Hamas's October 7th attacks the number stands at 1,139, with, of course, dozens of people still held captive. Those numbers are continuing to grow, and the increase in the numbers offer perhaps the most important, both practically and morally, reason for having a ceasefire. The world is calling for a ceasefire. Israel says it wants a ceasefire. America says they want a ceasefire. Hamas says they want a ceasefire. Everybody says they want a ceasefire, but the war on Gaza wages on. And the question, of course, is what is the reason why we continue to see the numbers go up, despite the fact that there is such a universal articulation? I hear what you're saying, Rolando. A universal articulation of a desire for a ceasefire, and there's a good answer for that, and I'm about to give it to you. I'm not trying to hold y'all in suspense. Either people don't want a ceasefire, or they want one without any accountability or compromise on their side. And I'll be very specific as the reports come in. I told you yesterday that Egypt was the site of another round of negotiations between Hamas and Israel. And the idea was that this was a kind of do or die, make or break moment, because the stakes are so high, because so many people want to see this thing end. But you get to the table and both sides, and I'm not both sides again, I'm just saying Hamas and Israel both refuse to back away from their core demands. I'm not saying that Hamas and Israel are equally culpable or equally responsible for the failure to have a ceasefire, but they are both holding on to their core demands. Now, Hamas's core demand is quite simple. They want the violence to stop. They want no more Palestinians to die. They want no more weapons launched or missiles launched or bombs dropped. Like, they're very clear about this, and they want to make sure that any ceasefire agreement includes a commitment to stopping the war. That doesn't seem like an unreasonable ask. In fact, it seems axiomatic. Yeah, we'll have a peace deal if you agree to be peaceful. In fact, in yesterday's round, Hamas asked for a guarantee from the United States, because, again, the United States is a broker in all this often. Although, as Rashid Khalidi said in his book, Brokers of Deceit, sometimes the U.S. plays a much more disingenuous and troublesome role than the role of a peacemaker or negotiator or middle person would require. Hamas says, look, we want the U.S. to guarantee that Israel will not launch a ground invasion in Rafah. It's that simple. We want a ground invasion to be off the table. So Israel responds. And Israel said yesterday, as they did the day before, as I told y'all for weeks now, Israel says, even if we reach a ceasefire deal, we're still going to attack Rafah. We're still going to do a ground invasion in southern Rafah. Now, again, that is weird. How do you, on the one hand, say, hey, we're negotiating a ceasefire. We want to get a peace deal with you. We want to have a truce. We want to have a ceasefire. But just to be clear, we can have a ceasefire, but we're still going to invade Rafah. We're still going to kill a bunch of people. And of course, they're going to say they're going after Hamas, but we've seen from every other invasion and from what Netanyahu is promising, this is going to be a doozy. It can't not be a doozy. You can't be that surgical when there's 1.5 million people living in a place that's only designed to contain about 250,000. You can't be but so surgical. But this isn't just a lack of technological precision. The truth is, they don't want to be precise. They don't want to be surgical. The world has said, look, there's going to be a humanitarian disaster if you invade Rafah. And Netanyahu was saying, we're still going to do it. And even if you strike a peace deal, we're still going to do it. Why? Because, it's safety, it's security, and so we have to do it. It's ridiculous. We'll talk about it. And so, in light of that, there just doesn't seem to be a realistic ceasefire outcome in place. I'm sorry to be drinking so much water in front of y'all. Been a little dehydrated the last day or two, and I'm trying to be intentional about drinking the water, because if I don't, then I'm not going to be okay. The United Nations, and the United Nations has been consistent on this issue of famine, and now analyzing what's going on with a looming famine in Gaza. The United Nations says full-blown famine, not partial famine, not imminent threat of famine. The United Nations says full-blown famine has engulfed northern Gaza, and it's now spreading south as Israel continues to limit the food aid getting into the country. So when you see Gaza getting hit with bombs and military strikes on the ground, it's tragic. The deaths are just inconceivably gruesome and painful and unnecessary. The famine adds another piece. Famine is brutal, man. Famine is ugly, because how many babies are dying. How many defenseless, innocent young people are dying. No one deserves to die from famine. But there's something very specific about famine in a country or in a world, in a hemisphere, whatever, that is so rich and has so much disposable resources. And yet we end up in these places where people are dying of famine. And the truth is, it's not getting better, y'all. It's not getting better. All right. According to Al Jazeera Arabic, Israeli attacks in this area north of Nusayrat refugee camp have begun. So about 15 minutes ago, Israel has launched attacks north of, it's really an area north of the Nusayrat refugee camp, and then also the entrance of a town called Ezawaida. So you're talking about more deaths. I don't know how many people died in this bomb, but the idea, again, this is a perfect example. Israel isn't just going to invade Rafah, right? They're going to surgically, or rather non-surgically, blow up stuff that's going to cause civilians to be there. Because of the density and the lack of resources there, it becomes a humanitarian crisis. But it's not just there. It's everywhere. But the model that they use, again, refugee camps, cars, roads that are meant for public consumption, these aren't like Hamas roads, even if you believe that what they're doing is okay. By them, I mean Israel. Whether you support Israel or not, whether you support the resistance to Israeli occupation or not, it's very hard to see the bombing of a refugee camp and say this is okay, or a hospital, this is okay. It's not. And what I have found is at first the Zionists will say, it's not true. Then they'll say, well, it's true, but it was necessary. And then they go, okay, well, it was true, but it was preemptive. Okay, you didn't really strike her. then it's your own fault. If you hadn't voted for Hamas, none of this would be happening. So, I'm not surprised at the lack of accountability from Israel for killing so many innocent people, but the numbers are high, yo. I'm not staying long, but I wanted to give you a quick Gaza update. I need to recharge this weekend. There's so many things going on. Um, but I want to thank you all for watching. I'm going to take a question maybe, and that's about it. Sophia Martinez, thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. We appreciate you. I see a question here from Medi and Manja. Said we have faith in current negotiation talks. No, I don't. Here's what I think. I think the negotiation talks and the stuff that comes out of the negotiation talks gives us a point of reference for where they are. So I didn't go into today thinking these are going to be amazing negotiations between Hamas and Israel. What I did think was whatever Israel's asking for, it kind of they tip their own hand as to where they are in terms of their vulnerability or safety. And I would say the same thing about Hamas. So I think for me, it's not like, oh my God, they're going to talk it out, give each other a big bro hug, and it's going to be over. But more, how are they talking about this? Kim Bro, it's baffling how many anti-Semites who are defending Israel. That's very true. So much of the American Israel lobby is either comprised of or supported by anti-Semitic figures, many of whom are evangelical Christian nationalists. Sometimes evangelicals are often Christian nationalists. Not all evangelicals are like this, but this particular group of evangelicals, they're holding on to Jesus being white. They're holding on to a kind of interpretation of scripture that makes them think about policy differently. So, for example, oh well, in the end of days, Jews will be there, and there'll be the Messiah will return, and et cetera, et cetera. The way they understand that, you kind of need there to be in Israel for how they understand Israel, not as a modern nation state, but as a long-standing empire and homeland, and in sight of religious, all of it, right? Point being, the evangelicals are anti-Semitic, and even their support of Israel is grounded in the anti-Semitic view that the rapture is going to come, Jesus is going to come back, and he's either going to kill or convert people into Christianity. Like, that's their belief. So, I mean, the whole thing is messed up. But they're like, this conflation of Zionism with Judaism is obviously what people are okay with if they're Zionist. But it's one that these Christian nationalists are also taking up, as well as some of the Democratic politicians. And so it's not baffling to me, it's frustrating. Baffling is that I know why. I'm not confused or baffled as to why. I just hate it. All right, y'all. Looks like there are no other pressing questions for now. Some of the questions go in the office hours because they're longer and deeper than I want to, I can do right now. But anyway, I want to thank you all for watching the report. Please hit the like button. Please hit the join button if you can, and become a monthly subscriber to the channel, or just hit the like button and tell the world you rock with us. All right. Peace.